One. Hello, we are live. Hello, and welcome to PropTechBuzz, a podcast channel where we talk to PropTech CEOs and founders from all over the world and learn insights about building and managing PropTech companies. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me William Gottfried. He's the CEO of PropUp. He's a PropTech veteran. He's leading many entities. He's the co-founder and board member of PropUp. He's the managing partner at Old 300 Capital, general partner at Stellify VC, and partners at many other entities. So before we the topic today, the meatier stuff is going to be on PropUp. But to set the context, my audience would love to know a bit about the career trajectory. So first, let's welcome Will. Will, welcome to PropTech Buzz. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Ravi. I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on.
The pleasure is mine, Will. As I said, let's set the context and let's learn a bit about your career trajectory and what got you into the PropTech space.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned I'm the managing partner of a company called Old 300 Capital. We're an Austin, Texas-based multifamily investment firm. We've been in business now for about 9 years. And along the way, we noticed a number of issues in the multifamily asset management, property management, and sort of general operations of the multifamily industry. Lots of inefficiencies, lots of tech stacks that were just sort of incomplete and a generally archaic way of doing business, kind of an old boys club that had always been a relatively easy way to make money once you got established. And I think became kind of stayed as a result of that. And so we saw the opportunity to dive in on the tech side, solving problems within our own portfolio, and then seeing where perhaps we could either bring existing solutions to broader markets or coming up with solutions of our own in areas where we didn't find a sufficient market solution already out there. And PropUp was one of those places. I can get into that more now, but essentially PropUp plugs into your existing property management software, your PMS, Yardi, RealPage, AppFolio, the most well-known of them, and handles vacancy management where the PMS tends to really focus on occupancy.
Got it. For those of us or the listeners who are still not familiar with this space, you mentioned about a few operators already, right? So AppFolio, Yardi, RealPage, Entrata. Could you give us a rundown on how this space is, what each of these players do, and where does PropUp fit in? For those
Definitely.
of us who do not understand this space at all.
Yes. So if you're in the multifamily business, if you're an asset manager or a property manager or a mom and pop, even, you've got some software that's running the property at the property level, collecting or a place for tenants to pay rent, your primary accounting system, your GL for property operations expenses. That's the core of the PMS. Yardi at its core is an accounting software, but they also they try to do a full client experience for your resident. They'll do website hosting, they'll do background checks for new prospects, they run your leasing side to some extent. Again, rent payments happen on the PMS. And they all have strengths and weaknesses. Yardi is the most established player. They've been around forever. As a result of that, they kind of have a reputation for not the best UX, UI. It's a tough user experience, but it's a very sticky piece of software. And they go after middle market, upper middle market, and enterprise clients who have lots of properties, lots of employees, and tend to be kind of slow moving ships that don't like to migrate very often. So Yardi gets sticky and it's hard to move away from them. RealPage has kind of come on the scene through acquisitions over the last few years. They're as big or bigger than Yardi as a result of it. They seem to have a core business strategy of offering you tons of little a la carte add-ons to your existing kind of core feature set. Everything from data, resident and leasing data for all 6 million RealPage units to digital make ready boards, to anything you can imagine, they slap on and bundle it together at an added cost. Appfolio, we use at Old 300. We really like Appfolio. What it does really well. It's missing some feature sets still, but it's a very tech forward company, looking to kind of disrupt the space in a lot of the same ways we are, and trot a similar profile. And we could go on, but they all kind of have their niche, and they're all going after certain segments of the market. Some of them don't play past the kind of core middle market, and some go all over.
Got it. So it seems like there are a lot of players solving the same problem, but they have somehow found a segment or a niche that is non-competing with the other players. Is that the right way to put it, or they are also
I mean,
overlapping?
the former is correct. The latter, they definitely are all competing with each other.
Got it. Okay, got it. And okay, so amongst these players, the PropUp comes in. Where did you find a gap, or are you also competing in the same space? How do you
No,
position yourself?
importantly, we're not rip and replace with the PMS. So we're not asking anybody to migrate from Yardi to PropUp. We're telling you that PropUp makes Yardi better, or Appfolio better. And as I mentioned a little bit, I hinted at it a little bit before, but the PMS is great for occupancy, and that's the mindset that they're in. That's what they think about when your unit goes vacant. It's a vacant unit on a number of different reports and on your rent roll. And they think about turning that unit as you give notice or you receive notice from the resident, you tee up the make ready, that is getting it from, move out of the previous tenant to ready to rent for the next tenant. They think about the make ready, and then, the leasing team running some kind of pre-leasing operation in the background. And they don't really, and then that's it. Then they don't really contemplate all of the different individuals or entities that might touch that vacancy along the way from move out to move in. And each of those touch points is a place for that unit to fall through the cracks. And when you lose days on your turns to unnecessary downtime, it's really easily quantifiable. Like, you just take your either previous rent or your advertised rent and divide it by 30, and you know how much money you're losing a day to vacancy loss.
Right.
Plus, you already know that on a standard make ready, you're down 7 to 10 days minimum to get that unit ready to go. And that's assuming you've got it pre-leased for, the first possible available date. If you've got a renovation in today's climate, you're likely down 20 to 30 days minimum trying to get construction going, depending on the market you're in. If you're in a big city in the States and you've got to pull permits, you could be down a couple months. Right. So keeping things organized, not at just one unit, but across your entire portfolio, where they're all in different steps. They've all got a new person coming to take over that particular step. Like, it adds up very quickly. So what PropUp does is it sets up a workflow from move out to move in, and it automatically assigns an owner, a responsible party, to each step of that flow. And those assignees can either be your team members at the construction management or at the property management level, or they can be vendors that work on your property, or they can be your third-party management company. It doesn't really matter, whatever your best practices are, we're going to help you hone them and improve them. But you get an assignee each step of the way. It notifies them when the turn enters into their step, and it provides a really simple workflow for them to oversee and complete that step of the process. And that's just kind of the beginning of what we do. We do a lot more than that, but at its core, that's what we started PropUp for.
So it's quite. I'm just curious. It piques my mind why none of the existing players are solving for vacancy management yet. Is this something that is beyond the core of what it is, or do you see it?
It's difficult. So the PMS, they're trying to solve for this a little bit. There's a big player in the space called HappyCo. They've got 3.5 million customers. They have essentially a digital make-ready board. One of the sort of banes of the property manager or asset manager's existence is the classic whiteboard in the back of the property management office that, we're often moving magnets around to oversee your unit turns. It's, of course, like totally decentralized. no tech at all, no communication, and everybody in the organization is just entirely beholden to what the managers are doing with the whiteboard in the back of the office.
Right.
So a lot of groups, including the PMS companies themselves, have created digital make-ready boards to at least advance that step forward a little bit and give a little bit more visibility into the turn process. But for us, like, that's just not enough. That's one step of the vacancy, where there are going to be approvals, there are going to be punch outs that you might not necessarily want to track on your board. There are going to be bids that are sent out to contractors. There's the entire leasing process where you want to track all the time that your units spend in each step. And that's what we do. We track elapsed time in each step of the flow. Again, move out to move in. And we alert you based on your own thresholds. You set, like, I want my units in move out for maximum 24 hours before it's telling me that it hasn't been walked yet. Like, one of the biggest headaches that I have as an operator, if I've got 5 move outs on, February 28th or March 1st, and March 2nd or 3rd rolls around, and I see, a little orange 2 or a little red 3 tracking those days, and those are overdue. If I've got 5 of them and they've all been sitting there for 3 days, I just lost 15 days of rent because we couldn't even go confirm the move out.
Right.
So we're doing that for each step, where you get to set those thresholds based on how you're performing, and it's going to ping the assignee and anybody in management when those steps go overdue. And it's going to force you to at least, and again, like, we're not trying to, totally micromanage everybody in the organization, because managers in particular are really tech averse. They don't like having tech tools foisted on them. They don't like, duplicative kind of manual entry. That's not what we are. We're automating this data from the PMS. But when something goes overdue, we're at least forcing the user to leave one comment, because it happens, right? Like, construction projects run overdue, or make readies do, or the punch out technician, kept it an extra couple of days, but at least tell us why. And then right there, just having that kind of one comment requirement for somebody like me or an asset manager logging in, seeing all that red on the board, I can click in, and in 30 seconds, I can know why these particular units are running overdue, versus having to drill in for 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time on each one, get somebody on the phone, have them look into it, have them call the contractor. And then now in the aggregate, everybody's better informed, and we're also saving tons of time for people to kind of do the myriad tasks that they already have on their plate.
Got it. And do they need to install your app separately, or it is some sort of an API that lives with the existing applications? Because as you just said, there will be people who would be very resistant or hesitant to use yet another app just for this use case. Rather, they would want somebody to offer that integratable with their existing products. So
That's
how
right.
do you offer
The adoption in that way is our biggest hurdle, especially because we're saying that PropUp is used best when you've got all of these discrete assignees owning each step at each of your properties. So if you've got a dozen properties that have 3 inside people, 3 outside people at each, like, very quickly, you've got a ton of users that you need to get on board.
Right.
So we've made it really simple. In that way, we can train 5 people at a time in a 90-minute session. It's designed to be very intuitive. We have very few required fields to move your units along the flow. Right. You can make it more complicated if you want. You can require photos for move-out inspections. Tons of examples on, ways you can tighten it up if you so choose, but those are not the default. And as you mentioned, we are API integrated with the PMS. We have to be, or it does become just yet one more thing to update, or it becomes the PMS says one thing, PropUp says another, and leads to confusion. So we're bringing in data either depending on the PMS. Honestly, like, the longest it takes to update is day by day. Every morning at the slowest, your PropUp will update with all the relevant information that we need from your PMS. Right. And in that regard, we actually really help our clients become better users of their PMS. You'd be amazed at how much functionality is in there that doesn't get used. And we tell them, the better you are in AppFolio, the better your PropUp is going to be. The better your reports in PropUp are, just the kind of more useless, or the more useful, information that we're going to provide to you. So, we help them kind of become better Yardi, RealPage, AppFolio users too.
Got it. Just curious, how long has PropUp been in the market now?
So we designed it it's like classic vertical SaaS. We designed it as an in-house tool. We saw it solving our problems, reducing downtime at our own portfolio properties by up to 40%. And we looked at the solutions that were in the market, including HappyCo, which is a great product, but didn't do everything we needed it to do. And we thought, let's take a swing at this, especially given that we have our own venture fund to help incubate it. We spent like 18 to 24 months really kind of honing it for the market. We just launched it in November of last year, which really meant January of this year because we hit the holidays like 3 weeks later. So we've been out to market really since the beginning of 2023.
Nice. And now is a plain classic business question, since you said that adoption has been your challenge. How does a new entrant like PropUp find its place into an established space occupied by big players? Like, what are the strategies to enter and what are the strategies to grow?
Well, we're lucky that we are a middle market operator in the space. So we have a good network built in already of groups we know, people we know, conversations we've had with them about what their pain points are, what their issues are. We know that the problem that we're solving is a universal issue in the business. Now, the way that everybody wants to solve it is not, a one size fits all approach, but we've got the kind of baseline group of potential users, or at least kind of like discovery calls to sort of hone the product and give some pitches to some like-minded groups. But finding that sweet spot of kind of like where we want to go first is tricky, right? Like below sort of say 500 units owned, probably not enough scale. And those can be sort of the mom and pop operators that, again, not enough scale in terms of the portfolio size, and probably not the budget either to make a move like, adding another tool onto their PMS. They've probably selected a PMS for a smaller portfolio that is cheaper and doesn't have quite as many features. And then if you get to like, 10, 20, 50,000 plus units, and you're entering sort of like the enterprise or institutional investor level, they might already have a solution that they built in-house, or they might have, every bell and whistle on Yardi, including Yardi's Maintenance IQ, which is their kind of solution for this. And they're going to be a tough customer to migrate. So we've been going after really the middle market, which can be up to many tens of thousands of units. It totally depends on the operator, but what we see there, enough scale, enough sophistication. If they've been able to get 5 to 10,000 units, they're likely thinking about growth and scalability. And we're pitching them on saving money in what has become a very tough environment. We're in a part of the cycle now where you can't renovate your way out of problems. For a few years, it didn't really matter, depending on your market, of course, it didn't really matter how long your unit sat vacant. If you knew that you were going to get a 10, 15, 20+% rent bump, it was going to be fine. Now rent is stagnating in 90 of the top 100 markets in the country. Rents are really flattening out. And so, you've produced underwriting and a pro forma for your JV partners that says this is going to be our vacancy loss. This is going to be our loss to lease. And now you have to hit that, and it's not going to be through rent growth. So we're pitching, one, tightening up your operation at a time where you can't afford not to. And two, if you do have your eyes set on scaling and entering new markets and growing, how do you do that without having to hit a home run on every property management hire every single time, especially in a new market where you don't know any vendors, you don't know any managers, a third-party management company isn't necessarily going to have their incentives aligned with yours. And we tell them that if you have a PropUp, you can set kind of a minimum standard for personnel performance, and you're able to track that performance, and your managers are able to track the performance of their team. And so you don't have to hit a home run every time. As long as you get a solid person in there that can use a tool like ours, that you're going to at least be able to achieve kind of at that par level to grow and scale. And then, it's only kind of up from there. So those have been our two main approaches that are kind of our core demographic.
But just curious, in the US, who usually is a buyer decision maker for solutions for property management?
That's another great question, and another reason why I don't know. Another reason why I think this space hasn't been attacked to the extent that we're attacking it. You've got asset manager operators, owners, the general partner on the deal.
Yeah.
And then you've got the property management company, and you've got their maintenance staff and the construction staff who might be employed by the asset manager or might be entirely third party. And that property management company might be in-house, or that might be third party. Like, we're vertically integrated. So we do property management, asset management, construction management in-house. Like-minded operators set up the same way we are. That's the easiest sell, because the decision can come top down from the asset manager. They're going to get that. They have to get the buy-in. They're going to get their managers and construction managers to, give their opinion. But at the end of the day, like, if we sell the GP, the asset manager, on the value of PropUp, like, they can push it through. But when you've got a group that's hiring out property management, then the property they are the decision maker. But if the property manager doesn't want to use it, who's going to make them? Right. And so then we're selling the property managers on the utility of PropUp, and that, we're not just the digital make ready board, that we've got customizable flows for marketing, that we've got the ability for them to track their own staff and their own construction, maintenance, leasing staff performance within the app, and that there's utility for them too. But if we go after the property manager first, they might not have control of the budget. So they're going to say, yeah, this is great, and we've got 20,000 units, but that's 50 different clients, and we've got to bring this all to them and see if they want to pay for it. So it does get tricky when you're dealing with third-party property management.
But I'm again just curious, especially for a new entrant like this. If there is an existing player already with a huge distribution network, would it not make sense to ensure a good partnership deal and distribute yourself with their distribution channel already?
Absolutely.
Instead of going and trying to go and compete in the same market, right?
That's right. And we are kind of trying to juggle both. Like, we need to show traction, and that means just a diversity of customers.
Right.
But it's going to be easiest, then it becomes traction in meaning what? Like, number of customers or number of units? Because we could get 10 customers that have 1,000 units each and have 10,000 units, or we get one customer that's got 50,000 units.
Got it. Yeah.
So, because of that, we have to go after both. So we do have, we are working some larger prospects, and we also are working with some startup PMSs that are looking to build a tech ecosystem that is kind of what RealPage holds themselves out as being, but doesn't really accomplish. Like I mentioned, RealPage has this approach where, pardon me, they have all these a la carte add-ons, but some of them are useful, some aren't. They're constantly trying to bundle them, and before you know it, like, you're way out of budget. So we're working with PMSs that are targeting truly individual startups like ours in very specific niches of the space. And if we set up one of these types of partnerships, then all of a sudden we're adding 50 to 100,000 units because of all of the customers on their platform.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, this brings us to the end of a fascinating conversation with William. William, thank you for giving us insights on, first of all, PropUp, and then a little bit about how the dynamics work. I operate out of Germany, but always very curious on how things work back in the US. Thank you for sharing your time and explaining us with your insights.
Of course, I'm happy to be here and would love to come back.
Thanks, William. See you around.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
buddy. Bye.
Bye-bye.